Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back to bring you great candidates who are running for this November 2nd election. Tonight is no different. We're bringing you a Senate candidate in District 14. Adam Elias, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth.
We're excited to get to know you. We want to share with everyone your why you're running, your background, your passion, all the things that you stand for so they can understand why it's so important to get behind you. So, Adam, let's start with your background and how you found yourself here running for office.
Sure. So I'm born in Egypt. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 3 years old with my family. I lived in New Jersey my whole life. Grew up in North Edison. I'm a product of the North Edison public school system. Went to Rutgers University for college, Rutgers University for law school. I'm Jersey proud all the way. I then went on to work as a prosecutor down in Burlington County in South Jersey. Started a little bit of a civil litigation in Geico to learn the ropes as a civil trial lawyer. From there, I went on to start my own law firm in Milltown back in 2017. In early 2018, January 1st, 2018, I partnered up with my mentor, Daniel Gonzalez. We have the law firm Elias and Gonzalez based out of Perth Amboy. 3.5 years later, we now have an associate and 4 paralegals.
So. Wow. Okay. Congratulations. American dream in the building. I think that's so exciting.
Absolutely.
So your family is from Egypt. One of the important things about that, I think, is we see many candidates now running whose parents immigrated is sort of the cautionary tale of some of these countries where, frankly, people like you are being discriminated against. How much does that sort of play a part in the way you see the world and your desire to save this nation and the state and get it back on track?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a very big defining point in my heritage. You know, I'm Coptic Egyptian American, so the Coptic population in Egypt is about maybe 10, now 8% of the entire population. Yeah. The Coptic population is constantly persecuted. In Egypt, it is a minority group. So coming into the United States, I know that we count our blessings every day to be here. This is a country of opportunity, country of freedom. I think people these days have taken the word freedom and they've really lost touch with it.
Yeah.
So it absolutely is a forefront of my mind. The Coptic community in New Jersey is far and wide. It's a very strong community. There are 3 Coptic background candidates that are running for the state legislature this year. It's a very historic moment in our community. So yeah, it definitely does shape it. I also do believe that having the persecution, all that in our background, we know that not everyone, we're not going to generalize everybody the same way. There are people who have their opinions about other groups. And then most people we find want to be good. They want to do the right thing. And so I don't hold any ill will towards anyone. I'm here to do my thing for me and my family and help my community.
So you looked at the race here, you looked at stepping up, and the past 18 months has been unfortunately historic, not in a good way for this state. We've been through quite a bit together. As you watched the pandemic unfold and Murphy's response to it, what finally pushed you to the point where you said, I need to run, and why?
So for me, on the state stage. And really what happens in Washington, I tell people every day, you'll hear it 1,000 times from me, has such a marginal impact on a person's day-to-day life. They have to know what's going on the state level. Right. They have to know what's going on in Trenton. So I always follow legislation coming out of Trenton. I always follow court precedent coming out of the New Jersey Supreme Court. And not a lot of people think about it. They don't talk about it. And a lot of crazy things were going on in New Jersey right prior to the pandemic and on through the pandemic. And so I was called on by members of my community to step up. And it was something that I was always planning to do again, but I didn't think I was going to do it this soon. Yeah. But here I am. And I think there's no greater time to do it than now. New Jersey's at a very pivotal moment into where we want our kids, what kind of state we want our kids to grow up in, our neighbors, whether we can still afford to be here. Yeah. Every time someone tells me they want to move to Florida or out of New Jersey, a part of me dies, even if it's somebody I don't know. You know, I go knocking on doors. They say, I'm not really going to be here that much longer anyway. And that kills me.
It's so right. I hear that and I think, no, I mean, we understand it. It's hard to argue against it. However, we have to stay and fight. Yeah. If New Jersey can be saved, then the rest of the country can be as well. This is sort of a cancer here that's spreading that we have to stop. Let's talk about your district, District 14. We've got Mercer County in there, East Windsor Township, Hamilton Township, Hightstown Borough, Robbinsville Township. We also have Middlesex County, Cranbury Township, Jamesburg Borough, Monroe Township, Plainsboro Township, and Spotswood Borough. Did I get all of them?
All 9 towns, that's right.
Awesome. So tell me about your experience in door knocking. What are you hearing from your constituents as you talk to them?
Taxes, affordability. Affordability reigns as the number one issue in New Jersey for many years. It has not gotten any better. I try to explain to people that when you keep electing the same people into office over and over again, which is what happens in District 14, that is why you don't see the change that you want. Right. If you want to get in better shape, you got to make a change in your diet, in your exercise regimen. If you want better grades, you got to study more. You got to manage your time better. If you want to see change on the government level, you've got to get fresh blood in there. Right. So most of the people that I talk to are tired of the people that are in the administration. They're just tired, really. District 14 is a working class district. There is a lot of labor unions, a lot of workers, hardworking families that I come across. If I'm lucky to get somebody at the door, they're not working, they're home, and they're exhausted. And they're tired of paying. Someone told me just 2 days ago, they're just working to pay taxes. That's all they're doing to do. So they moved from Hightstown to Hamilton just to get a little bit of a better tax break. But it's really sad. It's really unfortunate. And it's really hard to try to get people excited. That's what we have to do. We got to get people excited to come out and vote. And that's what I'm trying to do every day.
We do. It's really a matter of getting them out. It's true. I think if most people who are, frustrated as they are would simply vote, they would start to see the change that we need. And the way that you look at the way the state has been run, now, if we look at the last 18 months, how much have you seen of the Senate or the Assembly actually making any impact on the decisions in this state? And some people, I think at this point, think there's only one man in charge. You think that's true? Murphy is apparently king.
Yeah, well, the legislative branch has been asleep at the wheel, I think, for a long time, well before the pandemic. If you really trace back to the power dynamics in our state government, we have a very strong executive branch. We have a very strong judiciary. Our Supreme Court likes to issue policies and laws from the Mount Laurel Doctrine to Abbott school districts that have far wide-reaching impact that they will never appreciate. We're seeing it unfold now with floodings that are occurring in towns that have never been flooded because they're overextended sewage and draining systems. Then you have an executive branch where one guy calls all the shots every month, and the legislature either is rubber stamping what he says, if they're even convening or meeting at all. So this state more than ever, I mean, even on a country, on a national scale, we know Congress has been an issue. Disapproval ratings of Congress have been at an all-time high for many years now, but on the state level, it's really depressing.
I hate to use that word, but it can definitely feel that way. Today, Murphy came out and announced masking of children at daycare, which means as young as toddlers. And of course, more mandates for workers, more vaccine mandates. How do you feel about this masking issue? I'm going to quote Matt Rooney today that said on Save Jersey that it's almost become a fetish of the left. What's the story with this masking, and when are the parents going to be heard?
Well, today's announcement hits home very hard for me, Elizabeth. I have 2 kids in daycare, one that's 18 months old, one that's 3. I don't know what the science is behind masking. I'm not going to pretend to know the science. And I think that the issue is that we don't have the opportunity to really hear the science. On the federal scale, we heard Anthony Fauci over and over again. That's one person. I see these rogue YouTube videos of doctors that get up and talk about their perspective on the science. And I think that what the legislature needs to do is afford the opportunity for families to have testimony, to talk about it from their end. We need to have a committee of doctors, not just one doctor that works for the government, but a few of the best in the industry to come out, explain their perspective, get a committee going, have actual legislative process. I think whether or not it's effective to wear masks and vaccination, I don't think people are not necessarily against the vaccine. They're just against the idea that the country or that the state is telling them what they have to do. People will do the right thing for their families. They'll do the right things for themselves. But the presumption that they need a mandate in place to do it is what's really, I think, getting a lot of people riled up. And that's why we elect people. That's why we live in a democratic government. That's why we have a legislative branch. I tell people it's okay if you want to wear masks for your kids. It's okay if you don't. But the idea is that we should be able to at least have our voices heard. And we're not having our voices heard right now.
So when you look at that from the standpoint of a freedom issue, and let's put it in the class of medical freedom, which used to be a sideline issue and now has really become the issue du jour, right? Because it's all about masks and vaccines and mandates, no mandates. Where do you stand on all of that? What is your perception of medical freedom? And if you're in the Senate, how would you vote on anything that comes over your desk regarding any kind of mandate for either vaccines or this continued masking issue?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's important to remember that as a legislator, I represent people. Just as an attorney in my practice, I represent my clients. Whatever I believe personally, it's all the time clients ask, well, what would you do? What do you think? And, it's every once in a while I may weigh in my personal opinion, but at the end of the day, it's irrelevant, right? So the same thing on the legislative scale, it's irrelevant what my opinion is. It's what the district wants. And most of the families that I talk to, they don't want mandatory anything. They want to be able to have that choice, the medical freedom. It's funny to me on the far left, medical freedom is an issue when you talk about topics such as a woman's right to choose for abortion. And, when you start talking about vaccinations and masking, people that say, oh, women should have the right to choose, but everyone should fall in line with the administration. I don't understand the consistency. I think the right to choose is the right to choose across the board. That's something that, that's an inalienable. If you really want to say that the right to choose is an inalienable right, it has to apply across the board. It has to be apply whether you, in some situations where you may not like it, and in some situations where you may want it to apply.
Right. Yeah. I mean, very good point. There's a lot of hypocrisy there. And I think it's further eroding the trust in government, and people are questioning the motives behind all of this. Americans generally want to do the right thing. When you tell them they have to, and you have no data to support it or science that makes sense, it begins to erode the trust. Now, through the past 18 months, we've had a horrific impact on small businesses. And I know you've spoken out about that before. How might you manage small businesses coming back, or what would you look at to try to support them in order for us to have a robust economy again? We've already lost a third of them that will likely never reopen their doors. And of course, we know that has a huge impact, not just from the business owners, but also for all those employees and the families supported by that business. So what approach would you take?
Small business owners are already taking the wrath of very high state taxes, high rents. It is very hard to be a business owner in New Jersey. And the state really did not step up until the 11th hour. The state aid came out well after, the Republican Trump administration. They came out with the PPP loan. And SBA was doing phenomenal things very quickly. On the state level, I think Governor Murphy started giving grants out now in the last 2 or 3 months. He issued out $200 million in aid just well after a third of the business have already closed their doors. Too little, too late. Right. You got to give businesses incentives. You have to give businesses, people, the inspiration to start a business. Give them, we're always so busy worrying about getting Amazon in here, getting the big corporations in here. We don't think about the small businesses. Right. Give them some relief. Give them some incentive to get back up and get back into business. We have to figure out how to. When I think of business owners, by the way, I also think about property owners, landlords. There's no issue that really stirs me more than the eviction moratorium. I'm a real estate lawyer. I talk to real estate professionals all day, every day, and I talk to clients that are either landlords and tenants. And what you see is an unprecedented eviction moratorium, which our federal government has said was a far-reaching of the CDC. Unfortunately, that kind of precedent won't apply in New Jersey, where Governor Murphy issues these mandates. And it's no surprise that the mandate expires, a month after the elections. That affects people and their ability to invest in multifamily properties. It makes them second guess whether these are good investment decisions for them, and it leaves them powerless. Even I've had a client down in Atlantic County. He was renting a house out to someone who passed away in the house from a drug overdose. He was renting out to a halfway house and left the tenancy continue for one individual who was working hard to find himself, get back on his feet. Then someone who had heard that this gentleman had passed away moved his family down to a basement. There was a baby living in a utility closet. Oh. I told my client, get the police over there, tell them that there's a trespass, not a landlord-tenant relationship, just a straight trespass. And the Ventnor City Police said, there's not much we can do. This is a landlord-tenant issue that has to go to the court. That's frightening. That's very frightening. I mean, not to say that this person had any bad intentions, but the reality is you want to know who's living in your house. You want to know who. Of course. Someone has a baby in a utility closet. That's a safety concern. I highlighted all those issues in my eviction suit. I got a court date about 40 days out. Yeah. So, eventually my client did what far too many landlords find themselves doing, and that's paying people out to leave the home and to move on.
It's an assault on private property. Let's call it what it is. That's what it is. And it's done under the guise of compassion. And it's only one-sided though, because what people fail to remember is we have landlords who likely have mortgages, who are not getting any kind of relief there, are expected to pay those. And I mean, truly, at the end of the day, it is an assault on private property. And it's something that has been really a heartbreak. Your story that you're telling, we could tell that story thousands of times throughout this state with landlords, which is having, a massive impact on them as well. So as you look at all of the issues, let's say your term starts tomorrow, Adam, what's the first thing that you would tackle as a new senator?
So the one thing that's very much hitting the sound of a lot of people that I talk to is the curriculum. And it's not an issue that's really getting enough attention. The curriculum is being exploited. People come to New Jersey, not just the United States, but they come to New Jersey. You talked about, immigrants and coming from another country. People that I talk to in Middlesex County and Mercer County, there are very heavy immigrant populations that are coming here for the best schools in the country. They're the most expensive schools. We certainly pay for them out of our tax dollars, but they're the best schools in the country. And now we are letting our curriculum unfold into the state's agenda.
Right.
And it's really, for the first time, we're having conversations where we're saying we want to put our kids in private school because we don't want our students to be indoctrinated in public school. And I said that to one gentleman who was really cracking up because he said, that's funny. We used to have the opposite conversation. We used to talk about putting our kids in public school so they wouldn't be indoctrinated in private school. Now the opposite approaches. So I would repeal some of the laws that were passed in the past year regarding the agenda. I mean, they were rubber stamped. You're talking about bills that have maybe 5 or 6 sentences. They were statements. It's gotten to a point where there's such a disproportionate number of Republicans and Democrats in the Assembly and the Senate. And I emphasize this when I talk to voters. I say, listen, you may not support the Republican Party, but you have to support difference of opinion.
That's right.
Because what happens is you have a super majority that literally gets to pass every bill that they want, and we're not even reading them. They're just passing everything because they're all united on their party front. $6 billion budget. That's 30% increase over the course of 4 years of a Murphy administration. Who's going to pay out that budget? Who's going to pay for all these bonds that we're issuing? We're still paying for bonds that were issued back in 1997 when Governor Whitman issued out the pension, all the pension fund. And that's why we're here where we are today with a huge pension deficit. So now we're going to add more bonds to it. Who's going to pay for that? My kids, my grandkids, those bonds will still be on the state budget in 20 years.
Yep. That's
so
right.
We have to have a better conversation. And that budget conversation was 3 hours?
No.
It's a disgrace, really. And you have to have a better, I wouldn't even say you need more Republicans. You just need more responsible people in the legislature who understand the impact of the bills that they pass.
It is so true. We need balance. It's really not even about party. We need balance. The budget was a disgrace. It was passed so quickly. There was really no discussion. And you're right. People like Brian Bergen, who we just love him standing up and telling it like it is, but we need more of them. So I'm happy to hear that you might be a Brian Bergen type guy, Adam, because that's what we need. We need the voice of reason. We need balance. We don't need any more legislators leaving votes in committee and not even showing up because they rubber stamp everything. It's kind of shocking. And I think the more that we tell the truth about that, the more hopefully New Jerseyans will understand the need to get involved and get out the vote. So we want people to support you, Adam. We want them, they're going to be excited about hearing from you, and we want them to get involved. So talk about what you're doing, how they can find out more about the campaign, where they can find you online, what events you have coming up.
Sure. So, I mean, we do a lot of events in the district. We're having a lot of ice cream socials in each of the towns of the district. We had a debate that was scheduled for this week. It was canceled, which I was very disappointed to hear because, it was a forum that was to be held between all the legislative candidates that was canceled. So now I'd like to have a forum in each of the 9 towns of the district. We're having small business forums in Hamilton with Shop Hamilton. We're having a small business forum in Cranbury with the Cranbury Business Association. So small business, as you can tell, is very important to me. I want small business owners to understand the issues that affect the community, because a lot of them are too busy running their businesses that they don't stop to think about, how their businesses are actually going to get affected in the long run. I want the immigrant populations to really understand the importance of voting. Growing up in North Edison, I grew up in a very heavy Southeast Asian population, and there was always a Southeast Asian candidate that would get the least number of votes, and it always blew my mind. And what I've learned was that they just don't go out to vote. And same thing of the Coptic community, same thing of the Chinese community, you name it, any kind of immigrant community. They're so happy to be here. They pay their bills, they pay their taxes, and then they just go to work, and they don't want to be bothered because they're afraid of what could happen. They think that if they fight, if they speak up, that something's going to happen to them. So they got to get the vote out. They really are getting fed up and they're really getting tired of it. They have to go out and vote.
Yeah.
Someone once told me that if I don't vote, I don't have the right to complain.
There you go.
Ever since then, I've taken that very seriously. I try to vote as much as every opportunity I have, because then I know it renews my right to complain. And I'm not saying that complaining is going to solve our problems. At least you have the right to get involved. If you thought your vote didn't count, no one proved you wrong more than Donald Trump when he was elected our last president.
That's the truth.
So that's the most important thing people could do. I tell everyone, I hope I win in November. I plan on winning in November and being the next state senator in the 14th legislative district. But if nothing else, I think people need to get the message out of how important it is to know what's going on the state and local level. I can't emphasize that enough.
It is absolutely crucial. Absolutely crucial, Adam.
They really need to do. They need to read the state papers. They need to go on to our Facebook group, Elias for Senate. They need to volunteer for our campaign. We have 109,000 doors to knock on. We need help to do it. Yeah. So that's what people can do. They can get up and think about their kids, and they can think about tomorrow, and that will get us to where we want to be.
We need them to show up to vote so that they can contain their right to complain, right? Keep their right to complain, as you say so well, but it is true. And your district historically has gone blue, but all it takes is more people showing up that day to vote. It really isn't that difficult. They just need to hear that and listen. And the door knocking is critical. So if people want to volunteer, they can reach out to you through your Facebook page. Is that the best way?
They can email us at elias4senate@gmail.com. That's FOR. They can find us on Facebook. We're very active on social media. We're doing, always knocking on doors. We're always putting events up. We're constantly putting up Facebook events on what we're doing next. We want people to get engaged. We want people to get excited. That's something that the former mayor of Cranbury, Win Cody, said to me. You got to get people excited. And that's something that resonated with me very well. Getting people excited to vote. A lot of politicians engage in this back and forth banter, whether it be on social media or in public. And you know what? People eventually, they get tired of it. And they look back and forth and they say, you know what? You're all hopeless. We don't want to get involved. So you got to get people excited about voting. And I try to stay positive and maintain a positive campaign. But at the same time, my opponent, Linda Greenstein, has been in the legislature for 21 years. That's not okay. That's a
long time. My goodness.
So you got to get fresh blood in there. And she has not passed very good laws. The laws that she's passed in the last few years are very much aimed at being cost prohibitive towards businesses, whether it be sponsoring the eviction moratorium itself or passing the millionaires tax, which is driving some of our biggest and best businesses out of the state. You need more business owners and business leaders in the legislature. That's the number one thing that we need. Not people that are depending on the legislative salary for a paycheck, but people that are willing to put their time in. I've actually said it many times on the campaign trail. You could take my $49,000 a year salary. I work hard in my small business, and I don't really need that salary. I would rather create a job with that money and have more people to answer the phone, to answer to our constituents. You need more people like that are ready to sacrifice their time, dedicate themselves to really making a better community rather than just working and trying to find the patronage. And that's what New Jersey's always, unfortunately, had that historic undertone to. And we need to find people that really want to put their families first. And as you always say, put New Jersey first. I love your group. I have to make that point that Jersey first is something that I find myself talking about a lot. I found your group and I said that's so in line with what I think, because when you talk about people that go down to Florida or Texas, Governor Abbott, Governor DeSantis, what do? They put Texas and they put Florida first. Right. They're not always in lockstep with the president. Whereas our governor, unfortunately, is very much, he's 3 steps ahead of the president. He tells the president, hey, listen, I know that, the Afghanistan war is over. Tell everyone to come over. Did we even have a conversation about it with your people? Did you assess whether or not we have the capacity, the infrastructure to welcome over 10, 20,000 people overnight? I'm an immigrant. I understand that we come here and I want to help people find a new life here, but we have to have conversation. There's no respect for the people that have elected you into office. So we have to have people that we can hold accountable. We have to have people that are more committed to putting New Jersey first.
I love it. Adam, you're an exciting candidate. You're getting excited now. That's great. I love that. The energy that you have is incredible. And you're right. I always say business owners, the way I say it is people that sign the front of a paycheck are some of the best legislators we can have because they understand what that means. And they just have special insight that is so valuable to all of us in New Jersey. So Adam, we support you. We're excited for you. Everybody heard your details there. We'll post them again below. Reach out to Adam's campaign, guys, volunteer, always donate too. It takes money to run races. So I'm sure Adam won't turn away any donation.
I've not been the best at asking for money because I've always worked hard for everything that I've ever had. But yes, as it's constantly emphasized to me, you cannot win elections without money. So I am putting a lot of my own money into this campaign.
Sure.
I'm doing it proudly, but we do need more. We need, Democrats have no shortage of funds, no shortage of donors. We need, as a Republican Party, or whether you're a Republican or Democrat, if you just want to have good candidates in there, we accept donations. We are trying, and that money doesn't go into my pocket. That money goes into the campaign to get mailers out, and I have to make that point because a lot of people ask me, what's that money going into?
Right.
Mail and media and social media, it's not free. It costs a lot of money to get the word out. And that's what we're trying to do, to get the word out, to get people excited about going out to vote.
All right. Well, I'm excited. So I'm so glad that you came on tonight, and we will share this far and wide. And I know that you have fans here that are posting, go Adam, my man Adam, very supportive, a man for the people. Save New Jersey. No small feat there, Adam. They want you to save New Jersey, but I know that you'll help us do that. Yeah, absolutely. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. We wish you the best. We'll be following the race. We hope to congratulate you on November 3rd or whenever the votes finally get counted. So, Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And to my audience, guys, we will see you next week. Have a good night.